Hey, peace world. Thanks for pressing play on another Pay Me No Mind sports and entertainment video. My name is Wood. Please consider becoming a subscriber to the channel. If you like the way that any of the information is being presented, preview, recap, analyzed, broken down, do me a favor, hit the like button before you get on out of here. If you want to support the channel, you can make a donation via Cash App. That's money sign, a tribe called Reg, R-E-G, like a tribe called Quest, but R-E-G. Other than that, if you want to support the channel, if you don't mind, you can share the video. Leave a comment. I'd appreciate any input, feedback, and your thoughts on how you see some of these topics playing out. Getting ready to get into some bite down boxing. You saw the title. Anthony Joshua returns December 19th, Wembley Arena, taking on his WBO mandatory Kubrat Pulev. And I'm glad he makes it back. So I'm going to talk about, I heard him on, he was on a boxing clip. This is, if you have DAZN, you can watch both of these. But it's boxing with Chris Mannix. He sat down, or he called in to him. And then he sat down with Gareth Davies on this off-the-cuff program, just one-on-one, him with Gareth Davies, who's kind of like this romantic boxing writer. I don't mean that as a slight, but he's kind of got this over-the-top, presentation of his information and whatnot, if you rock with that. I ain't getting the one-on-one, so it's not like I'm knocking the man. But, coming into this fight, obviously, man, this dude is, he's the unified champion, WBO, as I've just mentioned, WBA, IBF, and then, sometimes why he throws that IBO belt out there at times. The UK's Tyson Fury being the other title holder in the division with the WBC lineal title, and what is he? Is he the Ring? I know Tyson Fury is the Ring magazine's #1 heavyweight, which at the beginning of this off the cuff piece, Josh was actually saying that he could care less about what Ring magazine thinks or how they rank him or whatever. So really quickly, before I get into kind of some talking points on those two interviews, he was also on the Ak and Barak show, which is a DAZN program on Sirius XM, the Fight Nation channel on Sirius XM. He was on there today and said some interesting things, but kind of repeated what I'm getting ready to talk about here. Taking a look at Pulev. Pulev has gone 8-0 since his November 14th, 5th round knockout loss to Vladimir Klitschko. Along the way, he's defeated George Arias, Samuel Peter, Derek Chisora, Huey Fury, Kevin Johnson, Bogdan Dinu, and Rydell Booker. Those last two were his two fights in 2019. He stopped Dinu in the 7th round. Went the distance with Rydell Booker, who was just knocked out or stopped by Filip Hrgovic. And Pulev is a decent challenge. He's 6'4.5", probably a good 240 to 250 pounds. 28-1, 14 knockouts. His one loss was the knockout to Vladimir Klitschko. Looking at his track record and his knockout percentage, he's not the heaviest handed heavyweight. But that doesn't matter, because at the heavyweight division, it only takes one punch and it only takes a split second. And that's what, coming into this fight, that's the major story. What is write this timestamp down. What is Anthony Joshua? The last time we saw him, he got his titles back in a rematch against Andy Ruiz over the Battle on the Dunes. And, he boxed his way to it. Some people didn't like that. And I think that's the big maturity or area of maturity for Anthony Joshua. He realizes now, in his own words, he realizes that people either hate him or people have more will gain more enjoyment or entertainment in seeing him fail. And so now when you know what people really think about you, because those that are with you, they're with you. And they're probably going to be the quietest. So he's learned. So let's jump into it. One thing that he talked about with Chris Mannix is defining performance versus defining fight. And he said in the rematch, it was a defining performance. Like I said, he went out there and boxed. He moved. He didn't gas out. He stuck to a game plan that they set up for him in order to be successful. He was advised by many to go another route. Don't go for the immediate rematch, blah, blah, blah. He came out and did the performance that he did, accomplished his goal. And I'm with him in that, to be honest with you. And he said he's going to be aiming for a defining performance against Pulev, but it's going to be in this performance, he said that power punching is definitely going to be part of the game plan or one of the elements of a defining performance in a victory over Kubrat. And I think he can get that off because, like I said, Pulev is not the puncher to really strike fear in him. And that's going to be the question for AJ moving forward. I know he was knocked down 3 or 4 times at Madison Square Garden against Andy Ruiz, but what I said was I saw a dude who kept trying to fight until he had the moment in the corner where he was lingering. But he got up 4 times. Now I'm kind of thinking, okay, so how can you survive better moving forward? If Pulev was to test his chin out and hurt him, what have you learned now about competing and about surviving, and letting your will shine through in the moment of the highest adversity that you can face, and potentially losing another fight? So I think he's matured some. I just mentioned that he learned that people either hate him or want to see him fail. Another thing that he touched on with Chris Mannix is he said, when these guys are ready, they know where to find me. In referring to Tyson Fury and referring to Deontay Wilder, he says he still wants to fight him if that should work out and if it should make sense. But he said definitely he wants to get the undisputed title, the undisputed championship fight, because that's what he's been working for. And I think a lot of people, that hate AJ think he's here. And even the people who told him don't go back for the rematch against Ruiz and go do this and maybe he should retire. Like, despite everything and all the dedication to the game, the dude is still being looked at as like he doesn't have any staying power. Like he's not a boxer. Like this is just something he does. I mean, he is a heavyweight fighter and he happens to be the unified champion in the division. So I believe the guy. And I like AJ. I think he had a moment where he lost and he got off message a little bit. He had to say things. He had to speak from a different place and being defeated and being without his belts. He said some things here and there that I was like, damn, this dude is coming to pieces. But I'll say one thing that was impressing me before I get on to the off the cuff. He said after the loss in New York, he said he showed his face in the city before leaving the city. And I saw that where he went to that basketball court and some of the dudes said some stuff to him. And I think, you can hate him if you want to. And a lot of American cats that want to cast him aside and downplay him and disregard him. I think it's pretty fascinating to look at a guy who was embarrassed the way that he was at the hands of Ruiz, after knocking him down and being on the cusp of victory and having the rug pulled from in front of you, in front of all these people on an app that you're kind of the face of, your event, your commentators, all of this happened to him. And he still went out and showed his face, faced the criticism of people that meant nothing to him. Like, you some dude at a basketball court, but he exposed himself to that. And he went and got himself back together. He said that one thing, I didn't write it down, but he said that one thing, and I don't know if it makes sense completely, but he said one thing that stood out to him was the loss made him appreciate with looking at Ruiz. He said he was taken aback by the adoration, the adulation that Ruiz received for conquering him, for defeating him. And as he was getting his wins, all he got was more questions. And then getting into the off-the-cuff sit down with Gareth Davies, he said, Wilder and Fury formed an alliance against him to make him look like he didn't want to compete. And he had made offers to both of these guys, even a more lucrative offer, as we've learned from the everything that Deontay Wilder has said. So he sounds like he's in a bit of a better headspace. I thought there was a lot of pressure on the guy before he lost. And I think the loss now that he's experienced it and climbed back from it, now he can just go on and do what he has to do. I just mentioned, he said he learned how special it is to really be champion and how you have to know what you are to yourself versus letting all these other people and these other sources define you and whatnot. Another timestamp. He has to know what he is, what his goals are, and that's all you really need to focus on. And I can respect that. I think all of us gotta rock with that type of mantra. He said he referred to in reference or regarding Wilder. He said he's another challenger, and he said if things go right or work out, however, and he needs an opponent. It makes sense to fight Wilder at some point in time. If he was to unify the titles and get past Fury, he said he's another challenger, and he still wants that fight. I think that's a pretty fair statement. And like I said, I believe him. I really do. The last thing that he said was something about, because he got into it talking about business with Barack and Akin Barack. He got into talking about his business. I think that was one thing that we saw the photograph last year where it was like 30 guys around him. And it was like, what the hell what job or role can all these different individuals possibly fill? How big is AJ boxing and are you focusing on your boxing? But on here, he said, it was important for him to be a role model. And he made sure to add in parenthetically to all communities. He got in trouble for the small business support black businesses or buy from your own, whatever that comment was. I never heard the audio on it. But he made an effort to emphasize role model, to all communities. And then, he said, about businessmen. It was something, I should have recorded the audio, but he said to Akin Barack, I don't know if it was maybe Mike Tyson and watching him lose all and squander all of his hundreds of millions of dollars. He said that's one of the things that he has to take away in his empire and what he's doing. I know he just released a clothing line with Under Armour, but he said, in so many words, he'd be a damn fool to subject himself to all that boxing is. Get punched in the face, be knocked out, knocked down 4 times, to be this champion with this perceived glass chin. He'd be a damn fool to, at the end of that, not have anything to show for it. And so that's one thing that I like that I'm hearing, man. He's rebounded. He's making the most of this situation. He can take advantage of being the heavyweight champion and being in the UK versus with all the endorsement deals, being recognized by the royal family over there. All this stuff that's specific to that situation. Heavyweight over here, like I said, I got to get this thing out here with Stephen Shaw. It's not the same situation for boxing isn't the only game in town in America, in the States. So I just think it's I just hear some different things for him. from him. But like I said, all of it would be for naught if he was to go out here and not be able to get past Kubrat-Pulev. You've heard Bob Arum reiterate or repeat vehemently, through over the last 2 or 3 months on several different platforms that Pulev was going to beat. There was no need to keep talking about undisputed fights and the WBO getting in the way with the mandatory with Usyk. You don't have to worry about that because Pulev is going to derail all of that. And so he has a real big job, a really important job to perform and complete, Saturday night. And that's the story in tuning in to this rather weak card. And he said, he probably messed up in fighting this late. Now that, Okole's lost his opponent, he has some new guy. Marius Wack is on there. But, I don't really care about a lot of these UK guys, especially the bottom 2 or 3 fights on there. I don't even know none of those names. And then lastly, there's going to be 1,000 people in the building. And these are the type of details that could have us concerned, or you could question, how is Joshua going to react to this if it's not the big crowd? That's another thing that you can see working against him. The big walkout that he does, stepping up on the riser, the fires, the big white robe, 70,000 plus people. You take all that weight away from him, put him in this different environment. Could that trip him up? How has he been? I've been watching him on my burner Instagram account. How has he been training? Who has he been sparring? He does look a little lighter. Like I said, will he bang? Will he be on the move? Can Kubrat get him to the second half of the fight and he gasses out and becomes more vulnerable? It's some interesting things to watch Saturday night. And I'm here for all of it. So let me get on off of here, man. Bite Down Boxing. That fight being in London, it should be on. It should start probably 2 p.m. Eastern time here in the States. Maybe, I would imagine Josh was probably fighting by about 5:30 Eastern time. So check it out. Anyway, Bite Down Boxing, man. Another guy who fits perfectly with the mantra, don't let them count you out. Pay me no mind, sports and entertainment. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Enjoy all the fights this weekend. 1.